Welcome back, you sweet, sweet, beautiful people of Hexaco. I'm here with a very special guest, Crypto7, as requested by my Patreon subscribers. Believe it or not.
Yo,
So,
Coffee. Great to see you, buddy. How you doing, man?
man?
Looking good. Yeah, your lighting looks good.
Yeah. We were just talking about. I got $20 ring light on Amazon. So if you're wondering why my lighting looks so good, you too can have this for $20 little dollars. Just let's say hello to the chat really quick. We'll let people trickle in. I know we're a bit early, so give people a couple minutes. But Alex Sutton, what's going on?
Humberto you can put your ring light referral link in the description.
Yeah, exactly. So it's only a $20 product, so I'm better for the high ticket items, I think. Hex Factor, Clayton Fox, Mr. Mike, Hexiest Man, See Further, and Bufo. How have you guys been? What's going on, everybody? Yeah, so we're just gonna have pretty much a conversation between true gentlemen and scholars. That's exactly what we are. Drinking our tears of the Hex haters. So cheers to you, sir.
I love that mug. I must get that mug one day.
Well, yeah. We all know hater tears are how all Hexicans provide sustenance and fuel our crazy lifestyles. So Crypto7, sir, how have you been since we last spoke? What's been on your minds?
Yeah, good, thanks. I mean, one of the things I thought it'd be a good idea to do is to say to people, look, because we're at the bottom of a bear market, and it can be difficult, it can be tough. Richard says chill out. He said that in his Paul Barron stream, which I thought was absolutely superb, by the way. He said, "I'll just chill out," and that's great advice. But for people who are new in things, it's hard. So one of the things I've done is I've made a post on Twitter, and I'll repeat it. Say, look, if you're having doubts and you're thinking about selling, look, and sometimes people in that situation, they just need someone to connect with who's been there and escaped the matrix, and that's me, and it's you. And so I said, look, my DMs are open, so there's no charge for that. If somebody wants to have a quick dialogue through DMs, and I'm happy to explain why I'm so bullish and why I think Hex is my big play and why I'm so bullish on Hex. But that's something that I'm happy to do for people.
Yeah, cool. I mean, my DMs were open until I got to a certain point of, there's only 24 hours in a day. So if I don't get back to you guys and you're up in my DMs, if it's really important, try again, be persistent. But there's also a Patreon group that I have. So I love to answer questions that anyone might have in there. But yeah, I mean, it's for people's first bear market. It's going to test your patience. It's going to test your conviction. And as we all know, long-term delayed gratification is what works in crypto, but this is the delayed gratification part. It's not those 50% dips in a bear market where 2 months later we're back up to new all-time highs. That's not really a dip. I mean, that's the bull market dips, which are great buying opportunities along the way up. But this is the big 90% crash that happens every 4 years in crypto. So it comes down to just number one, do you think crypto is going anywhere? Do you think the whole industry is going to collapse? If not, great. Number two, is Hex going anywhere? And why are we bullish in Hex? I feel like I beat this horse to death. I can give you a million reasons why I'm bullish. 100% uptime. The place is a $7 trillion product in the real world. PulseChain right around the corner. Documentary right around the corner. Fantastic community. Fantastic founder. Website, logo. Price performance in the past. Bunch of tools out there. Lots of game theory. Price positive feedback loops. Speculation built into the code. Triple audited, safe, secure, never been hacked. Not your keys, not your coins. True DeFi, right? There's a million reasons that I am bullish on Hex, and probably you for the same reasons. But
yeah, there's a million, and there's all those good reasons, and that's very well said. And please give Coffee a thumbs up on your way in, everyone. That's fantastic. But I came up with something today exclusively for this channel, which I think might help people who are relatively new. Say, for instance, you got in at the last bull market, or even more recently than that, because there are a lot of people who've got into Hex right at the end of the bull market, or even in 2022. And so I want to do a scenario, and you can play along at home, everyone. And I think this will help to reinforce what I'm saying about my confidence in Hex. And we're going to talk about Hex, okay? So there's two scenarios, Coffee, and you've got to pick one. You can only pick one. There's no variations, right? You can either be right where you are now, which is we've entered the accumulation year now. We've entered the accumulation year. We've got the bull market to look forward to. Right here where we are, or we can get in Matty's DeLorean and we can go back to September 2021, and I can tap you on the shoulder and I can say, Coffee, this is the top of the market for Hex right now. You can sell the lot now, sell the lot on all your other crypto, Coffee, or all your other cryptos, and but you can't ever get crypto again. So you and I had a lot more money in dollar terms in September 2021. I know you as a HEX OG had even more than me. I'd netted about $750,000. You probably even more as a HEX OG. So basically, we go back in Matty's DeLorean to September 2021, the top of the HEX market, and I say, coffee, this is the top, mate. You can sell the lot now. You'll sell all your crypto now, but you can never get back in. Or we go forward to today in Matty's DeLorean, and I say to you, right, you've got to choose. You're either right here now. Obviously, you don't get to sell and then know what's going to happen with the market and all that. So there's no hindsight, no sort of 2020. So it's either you cash out completely, but you never can get back in. You can't buy the bottom, obviously. Or you're right here, right now. Those are the two scenarios. Which one would you pick?
I mean, I think the choice is obvious, right? But
well, it's obvious to you, but I think the people that are new to crypto would love to hear your answer.
Yeah, so the opportunity cost of never being able to invest in crypto again, I mean, that would defeat the whole 15-year plan that I've got with my ladder, right? So if you're going to sell out after one pump, I mean, that's fine, but I mean, that's a certain level of money, and maybe that's enough for you, right?
But what you've just said to people that are getting nervous, Coffee, people who may have watched your fantastic channel or they may have picked up on my channel recently, what you've just said is that you're going to turn your back on millions of dollars to be right where you are right now. And I think for a lot of people who are new to HEX, a lot of people who are new to the amazing RH ecosystem, that's quite inspirational what you just said. And I'm in exactly the same position. So I'm saying I've thrown the $750,000 that I made on Ethereum out the car window. Unfortunately, I wasn't clever enough to get into HEX. This is funny. Richard said recently, if you're enjoying this, please make sure to subscribe and like Crypto Coffee's channel. Richard said recently, there's three types of people. There's the dummies who just chase the price, and so they loved HEX, so they got into HEX. The dummies got into HEX because they chased the price. Then there was the geniuses, they got it, so they got into HEX as well. And then there's a kind of like average intelligence people who ask too many questions and they didn't get into HEX. And guess which one I fell into? I was in that category. I was the average intelligence. I asked too many questions. Richard and I have followed each other for years, and when he was launching HEX, I asked him a load of questions, and at the time he had the time because he was waiting for the HEX code to come out. He had the time to respond, and we had loads of long dialogues about it, and he was answering tons of questions, and it was quite good. And we did a bit of sparring as well, because I didn't like how he was having a go at Bitcoin and things, and I said that, and then he was like, so we'd spar, and then he destroyed me in the conversation, and then it was really good. It was really good humored, and I'd say at the end, yeah, you've crushed me again, you know. And we had like 4 or 5 of those exchanges, and I still didn't get it because at the time I was very busy with my job, and so I stuck to Ethereum, and I didn't get into HEX. So I was in that middle category, not a genius, not clever enough, probably like you are, to have got into HEX. Not stupid enough to got into HEX either. I was a middle category that asked too many questions. I was a middle category that those questions got me in the way of life-changing wealth. It's quite a funny way. It's a funny way that
there's a meme for that, right? It's like the IQ bell curve, right? And you've got hold on. I mean, I'll see if I can find it, but it's basically the midwits are the ones that are the Wojak. It's the Wojak.
The midwits didn't get in. I guess where I am.
And then the geniuses and the real idiots, they both understood HEX immediately. No, but we're joking, you know. Obviously, all kinds of walks of life are involved in HEX, and it's you have to be intelligent, but also open-minded, right? And some people, to a degree, they're too smart for their own good, or you know, their bullshit radar, which is correct normally 99% of the time, is wrong this one particular time, and this really is that 1 in 100 coin that's probably gonna do very, very well and make a lot of people very wealthy. But it's hard to identify, and to a degree, I see a lot of maximalist people, especially in the Bitcoin community, that let their pride think for them. And imagine not even being able to admit that Ethereum can do more than Bitcoin can like, it seems such an objective fact to me that Ethereum extends the functionality of Bitcoin. It allows for programmable money, which Bitcoin failed to do. It's just, imagine thinking that all there ever was and all there ever will be is a coin where you can send and receive and mine if you're in a Chinese mining pool and spend loads of money on electricity and burn the environment. And that's it. Or you can do leverage trading, or you can give your keys away to a lending platform that goes bankrupt.
Collective cognitive dissonance, isn't it? So
it's part of it is just
it's just amazing. They can convince themselves that Bitcoin is the big play at the moment. You know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, it's going to pump again too. Bitcoin's going to do just fine. It might pump to 200K next cycle. I don't know. but what is that, a 10x? You know, I mean, it's great. It's great if you're already sitting on 100 Bitcoin, but a lot of us out there.
But that's an interesting point. You've just touched on something there, because that's really interesting. Because Richard says, doesn't he? He often says, "Look, if I told you how much you'd make in HEX or how much you would have made in HEX, you wouldn't believe me." And actually, if HEX performed a little bit not as well, it'd actually be an easier sell. Maybe it's back to that thing that I was saying
That's
before.
The same thing with the APYs, right?
Maybe that's why Bitcoin's still popular amongst the institutions and things. Because if you go to an insurance company with a suit on and say, "Listen, guys, you can make 10x over the next 5 years in Bitcoin," they'll say, "Keep talking, I'm interested." If you say, you can make us a 10,000x buying HEX, I say, "There's the door. Go away, you dreamer. What have you been smoking?
Yeah, exactly.
Smoking, boy."
Exactly. So, but then we go too far the other way in crypto, and then everybody starts talking about how their coin can do a 10,000x, and oh, well, my coin can do 100,000x, and it's like, okay, guys, we can't all do a 10,000x here. There's very few coins that actually do that, but it is possible. It sounds too good to be true, but it is possible to make a 10,000x return by holding a coin, not for a month, not for even a year, but over a 4 or 5 year time scale. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, why do you need more than 1,000x? It's a bit unrealistic, isn't it? I mean, $1,000, 1,000x, that's $1 million, isn't it?
Look, if I can get 100x on the next bull run, I will be more than happy.
Man.
You know.
Yeah, man.
I already am. Like, I'm happy just to be here. But the whole Bitcoin thing, it's an interesting case study in tribalism to its highest extreme, where they almost treat it as a religion. You know, it's a very exclusive. And I've been to these conferences too, and they take pleasure in bashing other coins and other people, you know, character defamation and stuff. I mean, it's really just, it's a weird kind of behavior that, you know, it's funny to call HEX a cult, because I mean, I would describe a lot of the Bitcoin conferences that I had been to have very culty vibes.
Yeah. Apparently the girls were being sexually harassed at the last Bitcoin conference.
One of them, yeah, it's unfortunate to hear that. I don't really pay attention. I mean, because let's not let one bad actor speak for the entire community, but I have met a lot of Bitcoiners, both virtually and in real life, and yeah, it's okay. Like,
yeah, I'm talking about at the Bitcoin conference. It was the girls at the Bitcoin conference who were being sexually harassed.
Bitcoin Miami,
yeah. Well, apparently there was half a dozen of them that apparently, allegedly. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy. But meanwhile, also they are trying to nobble the competition. The Bitcoiners, they are trying to get the Congress to crack down on anything that isn't Bitcoin. I mean, the logic just doesn't even flow through, does it?
Well, it's a scarcity mindset, right? It's thinking that the only way for your coin to continue pumping, now that all the institutions bought it, now that all the rich people bought it, the only way to really continue is to divert all funds that would be invested in crypto to only Bitcoin by making everything else illegal, which is terrible, right? I mean, so-called free speech activists, right, actively trying to censor and make it harder for other coins to exist by putting, you know, Bitcoin gets a special place, you know, in the CFTC or the SEC or whatever it may be, but no other coin can even compete. And that really is a scarcity mindset. I mean, I think all coins should be allowed to play the game. And which one people's mind share ends up going to, which one people's attention flows to the most, that should be 100%. The winner. It's a battlefield of ideas.
There's plenty of meat on the bone for all the coins, and the coins do different things, which is the point you're making there. You know, the coins do different things. So, you know, Richard created something which provides trustless yield, where you get to keep your keys. Everyone, you get to keep your keys, unlike all the others. And you know, PulseChain does something else again, and you know, a lot of the DeFi projects and the meme coins, they all do something different as well, you know. So
yeah, and you don't have to like them all, right? Like, I mean, meme coins aren't my favorite, but hey, if you want to go play with them, who am I to stop you? You know, maybe the world will prove me wrong, and then Dogecoin, or maybe it's Pulse Bitcoin, maybe that's going to be the new hottest thing since sliced bread. It hasn't won me over yet. It hasn't won my heart.
Sorry, I've got to go now. Sorry.
Look, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I would love to be proven wrong, especially for coins that are PulseChain friendly and, you know, things like that. Everything that references PulseChain or references back to HEX, I tend to like those coins even more because they all play together. Things like Hedron and all that.
Yeah, same way. It's likewise. I really hope that all the projects that are being developed on PulseChain do really, really well, because obviously that's fantastically good news for people who sacrifice for PLS and PLSX like we did, or people that are clever enough to get into PLS and PLSX on week 1 of launch. But I do try to deliberately occupy different positions. which makes me controversial, makes me sometimes a bit of a hate figure. But I actually think that Richard has already provided the only 3 criteria that are important to the best possible projects through self-selection, through natural self-selection. The best possible projects will come through onto PulseChain if it is faster, cheaper, and flawless operation. If he provides those 3 criteria, then there's no need for anything else. Most projects should be able to find the funding if they've got a track record. They shouldn't need a sacrifice, etc., etc. There are exceptions to the rule. I mean, I quite liked what HEXEB did with Poor Pleb, purely because I knew the guy, which counts for me a lot, but also I knew just how poor a pleb he actually was. You won't mind me saying that. He was genuinely the kind of guy that would nick people's pints because he couldn't even afford a drink, So he needed the sacrifice money. Okay?
And he's not beating
it
around
was
the
a
bush,
joke,
right? Like that's what I like about Hexy Bastard is he's very very blatantly grifting, and I think he has he pokes fun at himself too.
Well, not anymore. Not anymore. He's not. It's quite funny, isn't it? It's like Richard said in the Paul Barron stream. Did you obviously you'd have watched
the Paul Barron stream? Yeah.
Do you know what? It's taken me a couple of days to analyze that stream. If you haven't watched it, by the way, it's my last stream this morning was about the Paul Barron stream. But there's so much information on there. One of the things that Richard says is that the only 2 people that make money, and the only 2 types of people that make money in crypto in the long term are hodlers and founders. Hodlers and founders. Those are the 2 criteria. And of course, he's a founder now. There's a lot of derivative founders that have done very well as well. And like I say, so with PulseChain, I want all the projects to do as well as possible. But realistically, I wonder sometimes whether we injected a perverse incentive. We've injected a perverse incentive with some of the sacrifices to actually incentivize people to actually just launch a project in the hope of getting a sacrifice. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, and there are some good derivatives. I quite like the look of Hedron, for instance. But there will be others that just rocked up, pitched to the rich hexagons in the hope of getting a sacrifice. So if I'm honest about it, if I'm honest with everyone right now, I think that we will have a really low success level on PulseChain. And I'm sorry, it's just my opinion that they're done now. It's a done deal. The sacrifice has been had. We'll wait and see if I'm right or I'm wrong. But I don't think there'll be that many. But I think that going forward, Richard has created the only 3 criteria that matter for people to be attracted to building on PulseChain, which is faster, cheaper, and flawless. And so long as he delivers on those 3 criteria, the best through natural self-selection, the best projects will come forward. But no shade on the derivatives, but
world's largest airdrop is a nice touch as well.
Did you see in the Paul Barron stream where it was I don't know why it was so good, and I don't know why there was so much detail in it, but there really was. I really urge people to either watch my summary of it and or go back and watch it yourself, or do both. But one time Paul Barron's going, we really just need to find a way to increase adoption, and how could we do that? And Richard goes, I got an idea. And Paul Barron goes like, yeah, what man? They're just dead naively. And Richard goes, why don't we create the world's biggest airdrop, and we could airdrop all these copies? And Paul's going, that's brilliant. Let me get the pad and pen. And then suddenly he realized that Richard was just shilling his own thing, didn't he? It was like the realization moment. It was a total comedy moment. I absolutely loved it.
Smart guy, that Richard. I mean, that was a good interview, right? I mean,
it was, but he got his mental math wrong at the beginning. Did you notice? He said that he got in on Bitcoin at $30, which is only a 200x up to 60,000. And I'm going, no, Richard, I'm shouting at the screen, going, it's 2,000, man.
Yeah.
So sometimes in Richard's keenness to sort of like stamp on Bitcoin, he almost goes a little bit too far.
Yeah, it's hard to think on the spot when you're live streaming like that too. Mental math becomes a lot trickier when there's people watching you and you've got to think on your feet and all that stuff. So I understand, nobody's perfect. And I think a lot of people either idolize or demonize Richard in their heads. I say you're making him way too important. Like if you're going to lose sleep over what Richard's doing,
totally
good or bad, right? Like if you hang on his every word or you get outraged by his every word, I really think you're putting him on a pedestal that, to me, Richard is simply the #1 best marketer for Hex. He's the greatest marketer we have. But after being a founder, being a founder is great. It's a good bragging point. He can brag about a lot of stuff, but all it boils down to is he's the #1 cheerleader or marketer for HEX.
Yeah,
I mean,
I totally agree. It's an abdication of. You can see I know all the big words, by the way. I had all the right education. I'm not really stupid, by the way, everyone. I'm just saying I was stupid earlier. But it's an abdication of responsibility, isn't it? To just say, listen, for instance, we'll come on to the price and things in a moment, and price predictions. I know that's something you want to talk about, but just to say, like, Richard says it's going to be 10K, so I'm not buying anything until it's 10K. It's just, you need to sort of DYOR, don't you, a little bit? You need to also look into it, listen to some other people, and just make up, because at the end of the day, it's down to you and your kids' inheritance, what you make in this bear market.
absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Do you want me to do the bullish case now? Because I've got some stuff and it's an exclusive for Crypto Coffee. So people enjoying it, please make sure to like, subscribe to Crypto Coffee.
Yep. Smash the likes. But yeah, that seems to be what everybody wants to talk about. Are we done with the bull market, or are we done with the bear market? You know, when are we bottoming? When are we going back up? So
I'm the man for that. But what I do is I provide the bullish sentiment where I can find it, because at the bottom of a bear market, all you'll find is the FUD narrative being played out, news channels just reading out the negative FUD and things. And it's because the big players want your crypto now. They want you to sell. But so I do look a bit more carefully, but I also provide cogent reasons why I think that, you know, things are looking really, really good for crypto in 2023. So at some point in the next 6 months, we're going to bottom. We may have bottomed already, but at some point in the next 6 months, we could have bottomed. In the meantime, I've used this time to double my target for HEX. So I've got double the amount of HEX that I had planned to get. So in a way, I've been very lucky over what's gone on at the moment. The key for people to think, the mentality that will make you successful in crypto in a bear market, is to stop thinking in terms of dollars. Forget, but if I'd waited a little bit longer, I could have got a bit cheaper. Just think in terms of accumulating as much crypto as possible. And that's quite easy if you think of crypto as more valuable than dollars. As soon as you start thinking that crypto is actually more important than dollars, then you stop worrying about what you could have got if you'd waited a bit longer, because nobody knows that. We never knew what was going to happen. And then if you think in HEX instead of dollars, then the dollars will take care of themselves. That's the bottom line. So walk around thinking, I've got 1 million HEX, or I've got 2 million HEX, or whatever it is. That's the thing to do, rather than, I could have got HEX a little bit cheaper if that and this and that.
I agree. There's a lot of people that spin their wheels over, that they'll have regret that they didn't buy, the following day, because the price is now down 10% from where it was yesterday.
Yeah. And then they have the pride. And then they have the pride when it does go up, and then they can't bring themselves to buy at 5 or 10 because they wanted one. And they know that Crypto 7 bought a load at 2.5, so they're gutted now because they can't bring themselves. You mentioned the pride thing earlier. I know.
Right. I mean, well, that just comes to a short-term mindset. Another example of a scarcity mindset. But if you have a long-term vision enough, you can envision a scenario where we'll be living in a world that operates entirely off of cryptocurrency, whether that's a CBDC or your own favorite cryptocurrency. It's going to be up to the people to choose. And so as long as you're offloading fiat into crypto, you're going to be setting yourself up amazingly well to live in that world a decade from now, where we're going to be primarily using cryptocurrency. And you're going to have probably purchased one that appreciated in price 100, maybe 1,000x, maybe 10,000x in 10 years, who knows? Whereas the CBDC, if you're using whatever the government wants you to use, their version of crypto, well, there's not much gain to be had there at all. They're just printing more money. It's the same story all over again. Now they can just track you harder, shut you off. It's the opposite of why crypto was invented, but we're basically heading there either way. We're heading towards an entirely digital transactional world. And so you could either have the cryptos that are probably going to go up in price relative to the dollar, and the cryptos that are more secure, free, private, or at least able to be private, or you can put your head in the sand until the CBD, all your dollars are converted to CBDCs, and that's all you got.
What's your view on CBDCs? Because I personally think it's going to be very difficult to introduce CBDCs without actually just massively promoting cryptocurrency. And I think people will be getting onto the fact that effectively the big difference between a CBDC and cryptocurrency, because it's blockchain technology, isn't it, is the supply is either capped or it's controlled in an inflation way, like with HEX, where the stakers get some of the inflation, etc. You know what you're getting. Whereas obviously the problem with the CBDC is, as soon as they need some money for a war, as soon as they need money to lock people into their houses, they just press the print button on the computer, and
that's no different than what they do today, right? Money today is still numbers in a centralized database somewhere. And if the government was smart, they probably wouldn't even their CBDC on a public blockchain. Imagine every time the government prints $1 trillion, that's publicly visible to the entire world. I think they like the fact that there's a lot of dark pools of money floating around out there.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, I think we're on the brink now of collective realization of what's going on. I think since the pandemic, people are realizing about inflation. They're realizing that the inflation is effectively a sales tax. It's they're taking the money back off you indirectly. So in the UK, people are onto that now. I'm sure it's the same in the States. Yeah. And where the last bit, I think, is the printing. That people haven't really got their heads around the fact that it's the printing of the money, it's the flooding of the supply of something. When you've got 1,000 monies, then it's not as valuable as 100 monies. I think that's the last bit that people are getting. And once they introduce CBDCs alongside crypto, then people get it then. Okay, so the difference is Biden can press a button, or Jerome Powell or whoever else, they can press a button and there's just more dollars. Whereas HEX is immutable code. We know what the supply is. It's fixed. It's finite, and that's it. I think we're on the brink. I don't know what CBDC. The other thing I like about CBDCs, buddy, is they ain't going to get here for this bull market. Are they? I mean, I don't think they're really going to
test runs in China. I think they're even testing it out in some European nations. But when you think about it,
they've got introduced money slowly,
for a long time.
They'll start just linking them to social security and benefits and things, won't they? And famine relief and whatever. But they won't foist them on the whole populace for at least sort of 4 or 5 years. And we're gonna be in the bull market some point in the next 12 months. Which is one of the things that's coming to. I think some point we'll exit this bear market within the next 6 months. And the reason the next 6 months is that in May of next year, we are 12 months from the Bitcoin halving. I listen to all sorts of people. I don't agree with, including Bitcoin maxis. And there's one guy, Tone Vase, who you'll know, very knowledgeable. Yeah. But when it comes to Bitcoin, man, he knows his shit, right? So when it comes to Bitcoin, I listen to him. And what he's saying is that once we get to in 12 months of the Bitcoin halving, people will start front running that and people will start getting into it. So he's saying that at some point between now and May 2023, the bull market is on. Now, when I say the bull market's on, I mean, that's when we will, at some point between now and May 2023, we'll look back and go, okay, so that was the bottom. Maybe it'll be this month, maybe it'll be next month, but it's got to be at some point in the next 6 months. That makes perfect sense to me. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about May 2023 being 12 months from the Bitcoin halving, and then people will be front running, and that's why it'll go up. I'm also hearing rumors about PulseChain launch in May 2023.
Yeah, so that could definitely help the case. There's a couple of different factors here. PulseChain really can kick off a new wave of euphoria and FOMO, even at the bottom of the bear market. And yeah, the Bitcoin halving is the Bitcoiners' narrative for buying. These are all just converging narratives. And on top of that, you've even got the Fed pivoting, which I predict the Fed pivot to be maybe February or April.
That sounds bang on. That goes with my back of the envelope calculations as well. We're often very close, by the way. It's interesting because I watch your channel and from time to time at least, and I notice that you're often very close on the calculations.
Yeah.
You were one of the back in the bull market when everyone was going crazy and things. And let's get back into Matty's DeLorean again and go back to a couple of years when everyone's going crazy. I remember you were saying HEX could go down to 6 cents. And at the time, that was quite an unpopular opinion. And I think you were about the most bearish then. And then when you get to 6 cents, people start going, oh, it's going to be 3 cents. Oh, it's going to be 2 cents. It's like the 3-minute abs, isn't it? It's like everyone wants to sort of front run it. It's not, I've got a video which is 3-minute abs, not 4-minute abs. You want to buy my video, But at the time, you were like 6 cents. And I was like, oh, that's a bit low, That's a bit bearish.
Well, things always go way lower than you could possibly imagine and way higher. People's estimates are always, you can tell when we're in a bull market because people are always estimating higher and higher and higher. Whereas now, obviously, people are estimating lower. They're calling for 1 penny. So many people.
That's what I was trying to say. But you said it better than me.
Yeah. So many people calling for 1 cent hex. Whether or not you get it doesn't really matter, because by the time we're back at 50 cents, I mean, yeah, it would be nice to have gotten in at 1 penny rather than 2, but it's really, really hard to catch the absolute bottom. So again, that comes into focusing your attention on this tiny, tiny sliver of time where you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to make the absolute bottom price call, just like you're not going to sell the absolute top. And it's kind of foolish, and it's almost arrogant of people that think that they're going to do this on the next cycle. I even heard one person say, well, I'm not going to stake hex because, I think I'm just going to sell right around my price targets when we get to the next bull cycle. I'm like, well, you say that now, right? It's easy to say that, but when the emotions are running through you, and
don't let trying to get the well, Rand Nunes says it, doesn't he? He says, well, it's not a very crude way of saying it, but he says never try and pick a bottom, because then you get smelly fingers. But I prefer an analogy which I was just conjuring up there, which is like, don't let pursuit of the bottom get in the way of having a penthouse in Miami and Santa Monica or Puerto Rico with Randy Hilarski. That's the danger, isn't it? You go, oh, I want the absolute lowest. Well, yes, so wouldn't we all? And the markets always like to surprise. That's the
it's the same thing with sell targets as well. I mean, I see a lot of people preparing for, I'm going to sell hex at this price level and then this price level and this price level. But it's like, really, like, will you really do that when push comes to shove? Because when it's time to sell it, I mean, let's say hex is blasting past 50 cents. Let's say it's at $1. And you told yourself you were going to sell at $1, but you didn't lock it up. Well, by the time hex is $1, all you see in your mind is $5, $10, $100. You're caught up in the euphoria. Whereas if you were staked, you can take a more level-headed approach and say, okay, my stake is up.
That's so true. I've got a real story. I've got a real life story about that if people might enjoy it. So using sentiment analysis, because I'm a sentiment guy. So using that, you're looking at the comments in YouTube and all that sort of thing. Anyway, I knew it was the bottom for Ethereum. So yeah, as I say, I wasn't clever enough to get into hex in a couple of years ago. So I was in Ethereum. So I was dollar cost averaging down, a little bit like the story with hex this time around. I was dollar cost averaging too early. I was buying at 800. I was buying at 700. I was buying at 600. When we got to the bottom of the market, I'd run out of dry powder. But I just felt really strongly it was the bottom when Ethereum got to $80. So what I did was I had 3 cars. One of them was a Porsche Cayman S. So I loved that Porsche Cayman S as well. It was a good one with the big engine, I sold it, and I it's true story, put the whole money into Ethereum. And with that Porsche Cayman S, that made me 62.5 Porsche Cayman S's and the stake back, which is pretty tremendous. And that's basically where the $750,000 is.
Yeah.
But you guys with the hex did even better, of course. But that was, So I managed to identify the bottom, and I think you can. I thought so last time around, and I think so this time. I think you can feel and sense when a bottom is. I think one of the things like when you're going down a country lane and it's dark and you're looking for a turn and you've only been there once before, and you think, is it that? It looks a bit like that, or is it that? It looks a bit like that. But then when you see it, you see it, and that's why. That's another reason why you can go too early. But when you know, you see it when you know it, And but anyway, but then going back to what you were saying, Coffee. But it's selling the top is much harder. I couldn't do it because you get really, really connected to your gains straight away, don't you?
Exactly, and I'm sure everybody wishes they sold more at the tops. Everybody does,
or even anywhere near the top, or even like you were saying, even anywhere near the top.
Yeah,
because we were talking about the percentage difference now.
And imagine when hex fell from 50 to 30 cents. The perception at that time is, oh, we're not in a bear market yet. This is just another dip. It's par for the course, And now today it's like, oh man, I wish I could have sold at 30 cents. I wish I could have taken some profit there, because now we're at 3 cents, obviously. And you could have bought your same bag back tenfold. But you need to take into consideration the emotions happening to you at that point in time, and then realize that it makes it a lot easier to not only have a plan, but stick to your plan if you're staked, and that you just say to yourself very simply, okay, my stake is up. Now it's decision time. How much of this do I want to take profit? Do I want to take profit at all? I know lately when my stakes have been coming due, I'm not taking any profit because I don't like selling the bottoms. So, I'm launching them way back into the future again.
Great.
But it really forces you to have that decision at that point in time, rather than just, if it's liquid, there's always that temptation of you can get sucked into, oh, there's the SEC FUD, or oh, there's this thing happening, or oh, the documentary, and then, oh, maybe I'll just try to be a little day trader over here. Maybe I'll just try to do a couple of swing trades every now and then. Next thing you know, you lost 20 grand, and it's just, I see it happen over and over again. I mean, we publicly ridicule people for, oh, look at this trader, right? Look at what he just did. He just lost 20 grand in a week.
Yeah,
and
you get bored and try to make something happen. The other thing is, I think, and this is something that's speaking personally from experience. When I got into crypto, I would like go on CoinMarketCap and like I'd look at, in a bear market, I'd be looking at what cryptos are going well. Oh, I'll get into that then. I'll get into that. You sort of go for, and of course, in a bear market, that's generally manipulation. It's pump and dumps. It's exit liquidity. It's that sort of thing. But it drags the newbies in. Boredom drags the newbies in. I mean, one of the problems is, I think a lot of people that are in HEX, they're adrenaline junkies. I know I am or was, you know, and they don't deal with. Sometimes the very best strategy is to do absolutely beat.
It sucks that that's the most nothing. That's the best financial advice is sit on your ass and do nothing at all. But it's also what nobody wants to hear. They want to know, where do I go to click the button today? I want to click a button today. It's either a mint button, a buy button, a sell button, but I just got to click a little button.
Yeah, no matter what. Give me those morphines. Yeah,
a dopamine hit.
That's the word I was looking for.
Morphine, yeah. So you might need morphine afterwards.
Give me the morphine to get through the bear market. Yeah, dopamine. Thank you. I said I was a dummy. Yeah. So I've got a theory why. Did you notice in the Paul Barron stream that when Richard was talking about his price calls, there did seem to be a little bit of doubt being injected in. He said twice, there's a bit of hopium here, but he did say twice, you know, I'd feel more comfortable calling the bottom if. And I felt that was like he was getting near to, you know, like I'd feel more comfortable if we'd met our price targets.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple of things make me very, very bullish about 2023. And I thought I'd save them up for you. I haven't put them on Crypto 7. I thought I'd save them up for you. And my IP, right? I've not heard anyone else talk about this. And if you're new to Crypto 7, please consider adding me to your sub list. But, you know,
go like.
No, I haven't heard. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Everybody. What is it? Crypto Chat 7 on Twitter, and just Google it, guys. Crypto 7 on YouTube. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, I'm not very good on Twitter. I tend to be too outspoken, and I think I was a bit strong in some of my commentary recently. I love all the HEX streamers and things, but you know, I'm more. But also, I can't. I'm too old and I'm too male to multitask, so I'm better off Twitter and researching of things. But anyway, this is something I've come up with, right?
Okay.
So, how do you make the price of a crypto go down? Question for you. Sell. So at the moment we've got, and I think this is the thing that's causing that's making me think that 2023 could be really good, and why we may have bottomed already. We've got a huge migration off centralized exchanges. I mean, that's the absolute silver lining. That's a fantastic outcome of FTX, if you like. That's the brilliant thing. Finally, I mean, everyone gets it in the HEX community, but we've got to understand that we're the exception to the rule. Everyone else, I know loads of investors, people I got in who had all their money on Binance and things. Finally, people are getting their money off exchanges. So I heard a statistic about 2 weeks ago that 79% of crypto is now off exchanges. So it's locked up on Trezors and Ledger Nano X's and things.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's no longer on centralized exchanges, and by the way, I've got a theory that a lot more people, because, you know, how do you measure this? But I think a lot of the crypto that hasn't been moved in 5 years is because it's owned by dead people. I think, you know, we know, sadly, a lot of people died in the pandemic.
Or lost.
So I think
simply lost.
Or lost, thank you. They had to bang their head in a ski accident, whatever. Yeah, 100%, man, lost. The cleaning lady threw it out, or the divorced wife. She chucked out your computer and things, and you've lost all your money.
Right.
There's that guy in the landfill tip. Anyway, I think a much bigger proportion than people realize is lost. So of that 20% of crypto that's still on exchanges, half of it's lost anyway. So if it's off exchanges, how are we going to get the sell pressure? I know that for Bitcoin, it's
funny you mentioned that, because I saw the same statistics. The stat that I saw was a little bit different. It was in relation to Binance, and it said that Binance had experienced some amazingly high, proportion of outflows, record highs, billions of dollars being withdrawn from exchanges. And then I see people tweeting about this as if it's a bad thing for crypto. I'm like, hold on a second. Isn't this the exact point of why crypto was invented?
Yep.
Isn't this one of the most bullish situations possible? When you see money flowing into exchanges, that means people are probably gearing up to sell. When you see them taking it out, it means they're interested in holding. It seems very simple to me. How are you going to sell if it's not on an exchange?
That's right.
Yeah,
and not only that, you completely take away that emotion, because when most people, because People don't like it when I say stupid, but selling at the bottom of a market is stupid, right? So the chances are that if you're going to make a stupid decision to go on Coinbase and press sell or Binance or whatever, it's a quick emotional reaction. You might wake up in the morning with a bit of a hangover and you see the prices and you just think, oh, do you know what? I just can't handle the pain anymore. I just can't handle it anymore. You know, by the way, my DMs are open if that's you, by the way. If that's you out there.
Yeah, Crypto 7 will talk you off the ledge, everybody.
I'll talk to you for all night long. I'll talk you off the ledge. So if you then make it so that you've got to get your Ledger Nano X from the attic. By the way, my Ledger Nano X isn't in the attic, everyone. And you've got to connect it back up to the MetaMask, and you've got to find your passwords. You make people have to think twice, 3 times before they do something, don't you? So I think it's going to be very difficult. Excuse me. I think it's going to be very difficult for that reason. And the other reason I'm very, very bullish is that, and this was another thing that came up, everyone, in the Paul Barron stream a couple of days ago, was Paul Barron is, and what I loved about it as well, it's had 34,000 views this morning, probably more now. What I loved about it, which is great, is Paul is not crypto per se. He's obviously a bit in crypto, but most of his streams are just tech and stuff. They're talking about Amazon, whatever else, privacy, whatever. And he was saying, look, crypto doesn't seem to have gone down. It seems to compare well to tech stock. It compares really favorably. And this is what I'm hearing. So in the bottom of the last bear market, they were all laughing at us because they weren't really having a bear market and they were laughing at 80% drops. But now they're thinking, well, Tesla went down 70%, Bitcoin went down 75%, broadly comparable. They're intelligent guys and girls, so they get it. They're thinking like, well, so there's a potential massive upside and the downside now seems about the same as tech stock. Facebook, Amazon, they all went down similar amounts to things like Ethereum. So they're going, and these are the people with the big money outside of crypto. They're going, this looks quite good. This looks quite good. And Andrew Tate is saying, if you want to get out of the matrix, he's been saying to all his millions and millions of followers, if you want to get out the matrix, get crypto now. Start getting crypto now. We're in the accumulation.
Really I thought that Tate's opinion on crypto was. I heard.
Yeah, I've seen the stream where he's saying it. He's saying that he's saying his followers to get out to escape the matrix should be starting to get crypto. He says, don't get it when it's pumping. This is absolutely right, isn't it? And we'd say the same. Don't get HEX when it's 50 cents and $1 and $2. And it's I think on that, you think we both feel about the same. HEX will probably go to about $3, maybe a bit more if you add them up between the two. Because when I do my price predictions, I'm always adding up HEX on Ethereum, HEX on PulseChain. They're both mine, so I put them together and I say maybe $5 or $6 between the two, something like that. Does that feel a bit right to you?
I mean, I've always liked the idea of single-digit dollar ranges, maybe even $10. Maybe we tap $10 for a day. I don't know. It seems very likely that we obviously blow off past the 50-cent top. That seems likely to me. But whether it's $2 or $5, it's not going to really matter, right? When you buy now, you're going to be very, very happy. But it's interesting you said that about Andrew Tate. I was under the impression that he thought the entirety of crypto was a scam. So good to know that he is promoting healthy matrix escaping behaviors like that.
Your $6 is a 240x, so that's not bad. I got my calculator out just in case. 240x, and I know that for you and I, that's going to be fine. That's a lot. People like Andrew Tate will pivot quite quickly. It's like Donald Trump, when he was president, he was saying, crypto is a terrible thing.
And then he goes ahead and launches NFTs, right? Which, by the way, raised $5 million for his campaign.
No way.
And I've seen one of them sold as high as, I think, 50K. One of it was something like 36 ETH. One of these Donald Trump NFTs sold for. And then people are saying, there's so many terrible takes on Twitter all the time. Like the response to this was like, oh, this is so bullish for crypto. I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Like, do you realize that this is like the most bearish thing possible? Because people are still blowing $50,000 on this worthless NFT of Donald Trump dressed like a superhero. Like, we have much more pain to go. We don't deserve the bull market until people are done buying Trump NFTs. We're not worthy, Yeah,
he's a terrible poster boy for crypto, isn't he?
Yeah, awful. Hey, really quick, shout out to Pierre. Hey, thank you so much. And Tate sacked for Pulse. I don't know if that's true. I cannot confirm or deny that rumor, but those are the kind of rumors I like, sir. I like those rumors.
Yeah. No, well,
Thank
I
you.
don't. Yeah, well, we're happy with that rumor, but yeah, he's and this is the thing, you see, because we're in like our fourth cycle, aren't we? Technically fourth or fifth, but for most people out there, they've seen this 2 or 3 times. Well, 2 or 3 times is enough to teach most people. People are. I mean, I had a dog that could learn a new trick. Show it 3 times and it learned it. And that was a dog. So people, what I'm saying to everyone is, look, even the people that don't like crypto are getting onto it now. It's been around a while, and they're getting the cycle narrative. They're thinking, well, this hasn't gone down any more than Tesla and Facebook and Amazon. This is pretty good, and the upside's huge. I mean, if Ukraine doesn't send it down any more than this, if the cough thing doesn't send it down any more than this is fantastic. And so I think that even the people that don't like crypto, even the Elizabeth Warrens, in the Janet Yellens, I think they're going to be getting into crypto as soon as it starts moving. This is why I think 2023 is basically 2019, isn't it?
Sort of, yeah. And what I kind of see happening is just like 2019. You remember that crazy bull trap when Bitcoin went from 4K to 14K and then all the way back down to 5K? I would not be surprised if we get another scenario just like that when the Fed starts to pivot. That might induce
4K to 14K in today's currency is about where we are now, up to about 40K or something. So Bitcoin would go to about 40K.
Yeah, do maybe a 3x, right? And get everybody all excited. Everybody's screaming from the rooftops like the bull market's back. Yeah. And then next thing you know, it's 6 more months of bear market. The groundhog sees a shadow. Jerome Powell starts raising, he turns off the money printer again. And it might coincide with real estate being a laggard when it comes to crashing as well. But I do see that with the way that the CPI numbers are being manipulated, it's going to give us false hope, most likely, in one of these.
Well, that's one possible scenario. But we finished 2019 we made about 3 or 4x over where we finished 2018, didn't we? Which is pretty phenomenal returns, really, by most people's standards. I think this time, because of the awareness, I think that and the liquidity, really, in terms of getting into crypto, there are now. Basically, now you don't need to go on an exchange, do you? You can just put your card into MetaMask or whatever. I think that we're going to move much quicker when we go, and maybe this will be because the markets only rhyme, they don't repeat. There's got to be some surprises for us, and I think the surprise could be that 2023 is a lot better than people are forecasting. This is my prediction anyway, and then at the same time, 2024 might not be quite as good as people expect, because there's got to be some balance there. We can't just have a crazy 2023 and then a crazy 2024 and then a crazy Q1 of 2025. I'm wondering if the flip becomes 2023, because people are going to move so much faster. As I say, even Janet Yellen and Elizabeth Warren are going to want in if they see it moving. Everyone's watching it. And then 2023 really good. And then 2024 maybe, hey, do you know what? We're going to go a bit sideways this year. And people can wait, and it's like, are we going to have a euphoric top? Because we didn't have one we didn't have a proper one in 2020, whenever, the last one, 2021. We didn't have one. We had a double top. What are we going to have this time? Well, and this is why, if you load up now, start taking profit as you go up. It's I think 5% at 20x, that sort of thing's a good rough measure. But I mean, obviously HEX is different. HEX is my piggy bank. HEX, you stake it and forget it, and arrange the staking ladders around your needs and things. But that's what I think anyway.
Yeah. A lot of people, there's also the 4-year cycle theory that Bob Lucas has actually kind of been proven right. Benjamin Cohen, he talked about lengthening cycles, whereas Bob Lucas is famous for, no, it's just a 4-year cycle, guys. And he's starting to look more correct. Even though lengthening cycles made sense to me logically in my head, it might be that we're in another 4-year cycle, but that doesn't have to mean necessarily that the cycle peak happens in the later half of those 4 years. It could be some weird situation where we peak, we have a small peak early on, and we, like you said, maybe we have some sideways movement, and then maybe we get our final little run up at the 4th year. But maybe they don't necessarily all have to look just like curve up, crash, curve up, crash. It doesn't have to be that nice and tidy.
It's too predictable. It's too predictable. I do think that the lengthening cycles would have played out. I do think Benjamin Cohen would probably have been right had it not been for the fact that the Fed had to pivot, and we had everything going on with Ukraine and the supply shortage in China and all the rest. I think that we probably would have gone a bit further, but we'll never know, really. We'll never know. And I think Richard follows the approach of, look, the trend is your friend until the end. This is what it's always done. So until it does something different, I think it was on course, like you. I think the same. I think it was on course to go longer rather than shorter, but because of what was going on. And we can see that crypto is massively affected by what goes on. We saw that in March 2020 with the COVID shock, when the markets realized, oh shit, this is going to be bad. We went down so much. I had a little cry in my, people know that subscribe to my channel. I had a little cry in the back garden because I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then in about 3 weeks, I was up more. I mean, that's a wonderful thing about crypto. You just never know what's going to happen. Within about 3 weeks, I didn't sell. So I was actually up, and it was just, that's how quickly it turned around. We had that beautiful V bottom, didn't we? And
That
I think
was,
that's what people have been waiting for.
It was July, or yeah, I remember in July 2019, after I had been just freshly wrecked and also lost hundreds of thousands, guys. I've done the losing hundreds of thousands thing a couple of times now. More than
show me a guy who's got millions, and I'll show you a guy who's lost hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. And I understand how wrecked you can really actually feel during that time. But luckily, I mean, the way out of it is it can change in a heartbeat. You know, in a month or two, your entire outlook can change. That's why the older I get, the more experienced I get in this market. It's, you know, some of my better advice is probably to detach yourself emotionally from the day-to-day prices and volatility. Not concerning yourself as much with the exact timing of everything and obsessing on how things are going to play out, trying to read the tea leaves and look into your crystal ball and see. Trying to predict exactly how things will play out will always leave you disappointed because it's impossible to do. And there will always be, you know, a black swan or some angle that you didn't think about, you know, leading to a scenario that you didn't quite intend on. But that really only affects you psychologically if you have so much tied up, so much emotional, you know, thank you for the sub, David, by the way. But yeah, only if you have so much emotional energy tied up in having to be right, or having to feel like you're in control, because that's what predictions do. They make us feel like we have some sort of control, when really you just got to surrender and realize the market's going to do what it's going to do. It's one of those chaotic systems that really you just have to ride the wave. You have to kind of float with it. You can't control it. And the more you try to control it, the more it's going to wreck you at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's tough making predictions because you're incredibly right until you're incredibly wrong. But and it'll be the same for Richard. I'm afraid to say, if anyone's, you know, didn't realize that. Tim Draper was heralded as just like, you know, people were even saying, well, is Tim Draper Satoshi? Because how did he know that Bitcoin was going to do it? Yeah, exactly.
Tim Draper, dude. I'm pretty damn sure about that.
I know. And but then it was Plan B and other guys, and well, people go, oh, this guy knows, and then they just bet the house, don't they? And everyone's wrong eventually. But obviously Richard founded HEX. He's doing PulseChain. And hey, what about Richard's update? I like that update. Or the technical update. So changing gear a little bit, everyone. What about that PulseChain update?
Yeah, I could pretend that I understood it if you want, but no. Let's go read it. Let's pull it up right now.
Yeah,
it's good to hear from Richard, as always. It's just good to hear that stuff is being done. I mean, obviously, I know, you know, that there's developers working on this all day, every day. But, well, maybe not all day, but, I mean, they've got families and everything. But there's a lot of people out there that doubt that there's anything being done just because they can't see it. And
yeah, it's like the development. It's like the development Merkle tree, isn't it? It's like, here we are. Here's the proof, etc. Well, my theory is like, right. So we know that some people sacrificed millions of dollars into PLS, didn't they? Okay, so some people put millions of dollars worth of Ethereum into PLS sacrifice. I think there was a few people that sort of high, and so if they've effectively got a timescale, because all a timescale is it's an assessment of the latest technical update. So Richard's been given the technical update, and now he's stopped short of giving his own assessment of what that means. If the billionaires that sacrifice loads for PLS now want to pay somebody clever like K4K or David Feeder or someone, or just randomly, just two technical people I know, and say, listen, what does this shit mean? I'm like, it's Greek to me as well, right? But so what I'm saying, everyone, is these millionaires can now take that technical update and they go, right, what does that mean, David? You know, what does that mean, K4K?
Yeah.
Tell me, does that mean like 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years? What does that mean?
Right.
But also, it's a red flag for investors when you don't get updates. But I would say now to the investors, and what I'm saying to the investors that I got in is, look, we've had an update. It's not a time scale, but it is an update, and it's very, 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 very helpful and very, very useful. I'd like him to do more of that. And even though I don't know, and so even though obviously I would need to wait for the interpretation of what that means from the clever people, KTP or whoever is good at technical stuff.
Yeah. Hold on, I think my connection is breaking up, or is that me or you? Let me refresh.
I'm fine. I can hear you perfectly. I can see you perfectly. It might be just something you're seeing your end.
My screen, and I'll be right back.
Okay, but it's perfect here. Yeah, welcome to Crypto. Like and subscribe.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, you look. I think you'll find when you watch it back, I think it'll be perfect because it'll look perfect this end anyway. So
okay, yeah, I don't know where the lag is coming from on my end, but yeah. So basically, what Richard is saying is that PulseChain's got an update. So it appears to me, I'll put on my product manager hat and I'll try to explain this to myself, right? But it seems like they're using integers that are much larger than the integers that Ethereum uses, and they already had to make a similar edit to Prism, which is the consensus exe. It's the consensus code basically, and so they're doing the same thing with Lighthouse, which is a prerequisite for the Beacon Chain Explorer. I don't really know what Lighthouse is or the Beacon Chain Explorer, but it has to do with ETH 2.0, and it just seems like they're making it so that the digits, the numbers fit, because it appears that they're using more decimals in PulseChain rather than Ethereum. Oh, crap. I can't see anything.
Yeah, you're still coming across perfect here. Ask people in the comments if they can see you. People, could you just mention, because I've got you perfectly.
Uh-oh. Well, this is not good. Well, guys, maybe I'll let Crypto 7 take over for a minute.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying to Coffee is that, for people that were thinking, oh, because some people are saying this, oh, we're never going to see PulseChain, for instance, or we've been rug pulled or whatever else, or he's spending our money, the sacrifice money, he's spending it on Louis Vuitton and Rolexes and Audemars Piguet and whatever people think. Well, they can now take that update to technical people, and they can say, "Listen, what does that sound right? Does that sound sensible?" It's very hard to fake a technical update, because if you give it to a technical person, they're going to say, "And on the back of these consensus changes, that's logical. That sounds sensible." And what sort of time do you think that might be then? I think that's just extraordinarily helpful for the community and for the investors. I've got you back on. Can people see?
Yeah. I think I'm back.
What are people saying? Did they lose you at all?
I don't think anybody even lost me. I think I just lost everybody else.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that doesn't. Yeah, of course, you can't do much with that, can you?
Yeah. It's all good though. But,
yeah. Well, so what we were saying was that the technical update's just so incredibly helpful, because if anyone does, so it's kind of like, there you go. And if you want to now verify that, you go ahead and you pay the money to have that verified. You give it to K4K or David Fee or whoever and say, listen, give you a couple of $1,000. Can you just take a look at that and just give me an impartial assessment? Does that sound right to you? Obviously technical people outside of the crypto.
Yeah, no, I would be very curious to just hear a developer's perspective as to how long that particular piece would take. I don't know if it's a complicated thing or maybe it just requires a lot of testing. But yeah, anybody that's a developer, that should be enough information to work with, to get some level of estimation to help us all sleep at night.
Absolutely. And what about the movie? I think that's I'm hearing that's nearly out. That could be really good for the HEX price. I'd always thought PulseChain first, then the movie, and then you come out of the movie, you get your MetaMask open, you get hold of your PulseChain, whatever. But that seemed more sensible. But I think we've become a bit too PulseChain centric, and I think we forget that Richard really what he loves is HEX, and he made PulseChain to pump HEX, and so the movie's going to pump the price of HEX. Maybe that's bullish.
Oh, I can easily see. I mean, just imagine the exposure. It's going to be, whether you love him or hate him, it's going to be the hottest topic of of whatever's going on. It's the most interesting thing going on in cryptocurrency right now, and I think that so much time and effort went into the movie, and people don't realize how good quality it's going to be. Like, I have a lot of faith in these guys, considering that they've won many awards for previous videos, and obviously Richard had to sign off on the whole thing. And if he thinks it's good, and the people that I know that have gotten a sneak preview, a lot of the people that donated a lot of money or had a big role to play, they've already seen the movie. They have very, very good things to say. One thing to set expectations is I'm going to warn people right now that it's not going to be a glowingly positive Richard Hart praise review. You know, it's not going to be all hail Richard Hart, our supreme leader. It's going to be making him look like a very controversial figure, which he is playing that role. I mean, he's playing that role in real life, so to speak. He's almost in character in real life, if you know what I mean. And yeah, I think that's going to reinvigorate a lot of interest, and it can't be underestimated. That's going to drive a lot of buzz for not only HEX, but if it launches before PulseChain, imagine all that additional pent-up FOMO.
Oh, damn. Yeah, you have frozen that time. So yeah, I agree. So that would be tremendous. The movie will be fantastic. That's great. I've never really been that excited about the movie, but I can see that in the absence of anything else and with the technical updates, it's really positive, and it might be just enough, because investors look for a narrative. So if the HEX price is going up, they're looking for a narrative, and then you've got the movie, you've got the technical updates, and it's enough for people to get on board. As I've said before, some investors have been put off by the lack of a timescale around PulseChain since May. And I think the technical updates are effectively like a timescale. Testnet v3 is also like a timescale, because we know once we get the final test, I think a lot of the developers are saying, well, we might only need 2 to 4 weeks of that. So that's effectively provides a timescale as well, a bit like the technical update. So that's good news as well. And we still lost coffee. So yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, bell button all for coffee, world's biggest HEX streamer. You can see why, can't you? He's very intense.
Okay, I'm back again.
Great.
How are you?
You good?
Hold on. So
I can hear you perfectly.
My router straight up restarted on me, so the FBI is watching, clearly.
Yeah. Well, what's happening in the comments? We've got 324 people watching, so we should keep going, I think. That's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you guys are all still here at the bottom of a bear. Yeah, Crypto 7, who would have thought? Somebody you
just gone a little quiet, but otherwise perfect. But
it's
probably me, because hang on, don't worry, that'll just be me. Carry on. I just being lazy.
Yeah,
I hear you perfectly now, man. Yeah. So the movie. What are you hearing on that? I'm hearing maybe January, February. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
You know, they're supposed to launch Q1, and I don't think that they're known to miss deadlines very often. So yeah, it's something to look forward to in the very, very near future.
I mean, the thing is with movies, isn't it? It's a bit like the World Cup and things. The time, once you've got the television scheduling, the contracts and the scheduling, no, that's when we're happy. That's when it happens. I don't care, you know. And it's a bit like that, isn't it? So once it's locked in, it's locked in. Yeah, Patrick's really good, isn't he? Really impressive. I think they won 4 Emmys, his team, and he was only going to put his name to the highest of stakes if he could do it in a really, really amazing way. And I think that will be really good. And of course, the diamond gets talked about, doesn't it? And he's going to do an NFT on the diamond. Are you good?
Give me 1 minute, guys.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll just think of some things to cover. I think I'd covered everything. Hang on a sec. Bear with me. What do people think of that 2 choices? I asked people to play along at home as well, didn't I? So what would you rather have done? Would you have liked to have been able to go back in time and know what the top was, cash out all your crypto, but you can't come back in, or be right here where you are? For me personally, I would rather be right here where I am, which hopefully for new people tells you just how confident that Coffee and I are, that we are we are in the accumulation year now, and that we have the opportunity. The likelihood is we'll make more money than we had back in September 21. I thought it was quite a sort of fun way of looking at it, a bit sort of thing. As I say, if people are struggling, then my DMs are open. I'm happy to do that, and have a quick chat with you and things. That's no problem at all. And so how's everyone doing? 348 people watching. That's pretty good. Make sure to smash the like button. I know what I'll talk about. Talk a little bit more about the Paul Barron thing. So because that was really interesting. Some of the things that was said on that, if you might not have had a chance to watch it all. As I say, Paul Barron thought that the crypto drops in the bear market compared very favorably to tech stock, and that's what I'm encountering. That actually people are now looking at crypto and thinking, well, that's not bad. That's not bad. Particularly as I think there is this expectation that crypto would go down a lot more. So they're sort of thinking, wow, that's pretty impressive. And when you compare that to the bottom of the last bear market, people were thinking, wow, that's why I don't want to get in Bitcoin, because it's gone down 80% or whatever else. So it's put us in a good position. The other thing, of course, is the reality is now that crypto is so much smaller than it was that it can be pushed up quite quickly. It's less than $1 trillion now. Less than $1 trillion. I mean, 12 trillion. So less than $1 trillion, even just a little bit of migration from gold to crypto is going to send us off. And there's 120 billion on stable coins, just USDC and etc. on stable coins, just pointed towards crypto, and they're just waiting for the point to go, which is a Fed pivot. But bear in mind also that markets tend to front run. So I talked about May next year being, I think, when things are going to really start taking off, which is really soon, really. Sign me up, May next year for things starting to really pick up. But some investors might front run that. So they might say, okay, so if it's May, I'm going in April. And then as soon as somebody goes, everyone's going to pile in. How are you doing, buddy?
Better. Yeah. For whatever reason,
my
Wi-Fi, well, I was plugged into the router. So I just went from plugged in to Wi-Fi. Seems to be all right.
Okay, great. Well, we've got 356 people watching, which is about
That's
twice
incredible.
as many as I average on my channel, which is so well done. Props to you,
That's
mate.
incredible, man.
Yeah.
Where should we go from here? Do you want to just answer questions from the chat?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's answer the questions, because we've both been sort of slightly.
Yeah.
We've done it, man.
This question. I want to know this one. Randy said that you spanked him.
No, I love Randy.
Did he like it?
No, I love Randy. I'm going to have a cocktail in Puerto Rico with Randy sometime. And
Randy's one of my favorites.
He's a really good guy.
Good dude.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm always bigging up other streamers. I'm always bigging up him. I'm always bigging up. I can't believe how well Corey does. I don't know what his secret sauce is for getting interviews.
His secret is getting the best guests on his stream, and I think he just asks. I just think a lot of people don't ask. Like, I know I didn't ask BitBoy Crypto to come on my show.
Yeah, well, I think he asked in the right way. There's obviously a way that he does it. But anyway, I mean, I'm always bigging up other streamers. If anyone wants to shout out, but I gave them a little bit of stick about Zen, but that's done. It's done and dusted, and so okay. I lost a lot of subscribers over it as well.
Yeah, I try to avoid Twitter beef as much as I can, and sometimes the longer I'm on there, the more I want to just scream at people. Sometimes, reach through the phone and strangle them. But it's not conducive. You really do get more flies with honey than vinegar, and I think a lot of these Twitter beefs, it's man. Let's put that behind us as much as we can, because the real enemy, in my opinion, it's the haters. And if not the haters, then it's just the Federal Reserve itself. We're all here to overthrow the government in the most peaceful way possible. So I think a lot of people forget that, we are on tribes and we are like sports fans in a way. And I do think HEX is better than a lot of the other people's coins out there. I really do. But the name of the game is mass adoption for cryptocurrency as a whole. So let's not forget that when we resort to personal attacks. It's okay to fight about ideas all day long. But you know, and I should talk, right? I'm not
It was
I'm
probably my
not a
bad.
saint
It was
either,
probably
right?
my bad anyway. It's probably my bad anyway. I think I was a bit too strong enough. So I've spoken to Randy about that. He's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the things I like about Randy is because he's been, I mean, there's a lot of great things, but because he's been in crypto, I think he's been in crypto longer than me. So that's the kind of guy I want to talk to.
Yeah.
It's like, say, for instance, you're in an airplane, okay, and there's loads of turbulence and one of the engines stops and things. Well, I'll look at the cabin crew and then I want to look at the oldest cabin crew member. And
Right.
if she looks worried, then we know we're going to die. But if she's not worried, then we're going to be safe.
Yeah. He's been here for a long,
sorry,
long
Randy,
time.
you're the old cabin crew in that analogy. So
yeah.
but,
Well,
yeah, that's
one of the things about Randy too is that when Hexo stopped streaming, Randy stepped up to the plate and he said, "Okay, I'm going to stream more every day." And he's fearless,
he
and
was
we
a
need a lot
natural
of
fit.
that thought leadership going forward. We need to be not afraid to use our freedom of speech, and the chilling effect can be a real thing. But for me personally, it just makes me want to go harder. It makes me want to promote Hex even more.
Yeah, good
And
man.
Randy
Good
was one
for
of those
you.
guys that definitely understood that as well. Cooking with
Yep.
Monica says, "Will the movie be on Netflix?" It's either going to be Netflix, Hulu, or one of the big three. Maybe Amazon. Probably not Amazon. I have no idea, but they definitely have connections. And if it's not on Netflix, it'll be on Hulu or HBO or one of these big ones. That's my opinion.
And the DVDs are done and dusted now, aren't they? They're I think they've been produced, and that's what somebody was saying in the chat for me today. I think they're done.
Yep.
Yeah, they're good. What else we got in the comments?
How will Hex ever get to $1? Well, people are gonna have to buy more than they sell. It's pretty easy, and I wouldn't be concerned with anybody saying that they're gonna dump. You know, there's a lot of fake sharks, fake whales out there too. Just don't believe everything you read.
If you liked Hex at 56 cents, you should love it at 2.5 cents, shouldn't you?
Nathan, yeah, I mean, exactly. People think the exact opposite about it. People that were waiting to buy the dip. Here's your dip, you know.
Well, most people will wait till. We talked about the people that are hoping for lower and lower and lower, being greedy at the bottom of this bear market, and then they'll sort of like eventually they'll have to get back in because, you know, everyone wants to buy something that's charging up. And the answer is that more people want to buy it at 20 cents than 10 cents, more people at 40 than 20, all the way up to answering that person's question, all the way up to $1. That's how we get to $1. And I think we're going to get to more than $1. Certainly when you add Hex on PulseChain and Hex on Ethereum together.
Yeah. Nate Cartwright wants to know if Bitcoin goes to 11K, does Hex go lower? He's waiting to grab a bag at 1.5 cents. I mean, yeah, there's a chance it can. I also know there's a lot of limit orders, and there's a lot of people in Hex that have already gotten shaken out, whereas there's a lot of people maybe still remaining in Bitcoin that are leveraged that need to get shaken out of these leverage exchanges. So I am more likely to think that Hex actually has neared its bottom, if not already bottomed, and any additional dump that a whale wants to do. Like we saw somebody sell 50 million Hex the other day and hurt the price a bit, but then a couple hours later, it's back up to 2.6 cents. So yeah, I think 11K could shock the market, but I think the people that we have left over in Hex tend to be more resilient and tend to be stronger handed. And I think there's a lot of weak handed paper hand, lettuce hand, soy boys that still need to get shaken out of Bitcoin and maybe a couple of other altcoins as well. But luckily for Hex, I really do think that a lot of the lettuce hands have shaken themselves out. I mean, that's just the feeling I get. And of course I could be wrong. People's emotions change all the time. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of confusion in the community on this one. So I'm really glad that person answered this question. And so I want to try and shine a bit of clarity on this. So the first thing to understand is that Bitcoin and Hex are separate things. Hex started its bear market in September, Bitcoin in November. They're different. Hex has gone down a lot more than Bitcoin. Hex has had its 95% retrace. Bitcoin has only gone down 76, I think, something like that. Now, the thing that people in the community need to understand, I'm giving you all my nuggets here, giving you all my alpha, is that Richard as a founder cannot give a price. He cannot call the bottom in the same way and saying in the same forthright way as he can with Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, and it was another thing he commented on, Paul Barron, is that he is going to call the bottom for Bitcoin, and he's going to publicly do it. And so he said, "Watch my Twitter, etc." So that's very exciting. But in my opinion, he has already called the bottom for HEX. Now, as it turns out, with everything that went on, we have gone slightly lower, 10, 15%. If I gave you the opportunity to buy HEX 10, 15% around the all-time low, what was it, the 2nd of January or something? So it's 31 days, wasn't it, after HEX launched? You'd take that, wouldn't you? You'd take that. Because he's a founder of HEX, he cannot call the bottom for HEX in the same way as he can for Bitcoin. But what he did with the guys in the States, Miguel, etc., I think it was, to be honest, I think he was sort of pushing his luck a bit there, really. He basically called it. Now, as it happens, he wasn't right. But the game with price calls is you can't change your mind. You can't change your mind. He's done all he's going to do with HEX. And I think he signaled that he thought 2.8 was the bottom. 2.8 wasn't quite the bottom, but we're roughly around that sort of price, aren't we? So I think HEX has pretty much dropped as far as it's going to go. Unless, and particularly, in fact, no, that I was going to qualify it with, in fact, this morning when I was talking to my community, I said, the only way that I can see HEX going a lot lower now is if we don't get testnet v3 in January, as I think we will, and we don't get the communication. But that technical update was fantastic communication. As I say, if the rich guys that sacrificed loads for PLS now want to get a technical interpretation on that, and I'm sure they'll hear from people anyway freely, but they're free to do that now. So I think that Richard has already called the HEX bottom. And
in a way, I mean, I think without saying as many words, he just like me and you, we just really, really want it to be the bottom. And that's never to say that there can't possibly be a whale that just decides to go AWOL. Like we saw with somebody the other day. I mean, but guess what? That guy's out. He redistributed all of his HEX to ready and willing buyers. And that said, of course, there's a lot of people that I think have diamond hands. I think most of the people still here are the diamond-headed people. And if that's not enough, we do have the documentary and we do have V3 right around the corner to sustain people's conviction, I think, for the following couple of months.
Absolutely.
But that's not to say that, of course, a whale can always decide to lose his mind and rage quit and all that.
But there's muscle memory around here. I think that, Richard obviously thought that 2.8 was already an exceptionally generous offer, shall we say, in the sales for HEX. So yeah, we could wick or something, and as you say, somebody could capitulate massively down here, or maybe something malicious. But I think it would bounce straight back up to that 2.5 to 3 cent range. I think effectively we've just been ranging around there for ages, haven't we? So, but it's going to be very, very interesting. And I do think that in terms of one of the things I say, is if you assume that Richard Hart is the best at making price predictions at the moment, which is probably fair to say, he's probably the best in the market at making price predictions, then a Richard Hart price call beginning at 2023 is much more accurate than a Richard price call in 2022 or 2021. It's a bit like sort of like, the iPhone 15, the iPhone 16, so because things do change. And I commented on these two things. Richard couldn't have predicted the extent to which people would get off the exchanges. The only way you can sell is to go on an exchange, basically. So, okay, there's some OTC around Bitcoin, that sort of thing. But so I think it's very hard for me to see how, if we forget Bitcoin for a bit, the other issue with Bitcoin is it doesn't have the dominance it used to have. It massively doesn't have the dominance it doesn't have. So it's very difficult to start to assume all sorts for the entire market when Bitcoin no longer has that dominance. Yeah, and I think Ethereum is going to overtake it very quickly.
Here's the interesting thing about Bitcoin dominance, right, is that we've never had this level of stablecoin dominance as well. This didn't exist. So the Bitcoin altcoin dominance ratio, it used to be a way for people to measure Bitcoin's strength against the rest of the market. And I know maxis love to use it, but the metrics are all fucked up now, basically. Like you need to discount US dollar coin, USDC, USDT, because these are inflating, or should I say they're deflating the Bitcoin dominance in reality. But when you do take out stable coins, I still don't really think it's that great of a metric in which to base a bull or a bear market on, because we're also in this new era where a lot of people are waking up to the fact that Bitcoin isn't the only thing around, and it's a lot of other cryptocurrencies, starting with Ethereum and a couple of the big players over on Ethereum. They have a lot of legitimacy now. Back in the day, it was all vaporware. I totally agreed. Like
Totally.
the Bitcoin maximalists sounded very, very smart in 2017, 2018, especially when everything was crashing, because we all had to come to terms with, oh yeah, shit, I guess I did just buy a bunch of vaporware, huh? No products, just a white paper and a dream, maybe, maybe some buzzword bingo. And there was nothing of substance. But now we've got real working products. And I think that makes Bitcoin dominance less of an important factor, in my opinion.
No, that's absolutely right. We've got loads of talking about working products. You made me think of, and this got so much development going on things like Polygon, which has got all these massive partners now. There's so many projects being built, and of course on PulseChain and things like that. That's right. So yeah, it's really hard for me to understand, with the dominance of Bitcoin having diminished so massively, how the previous price prediction modeling around the market as a whole, that was basically just exclusively based on Bitcoin and then using Bitcoin as a proxy for everything else. Really hard for me to understand how that's going to maintain any degree of accuracy when, as you say, you've got all these other projects that seem to be getting all the action now. I mean, Polygon's partnered with absolutely everyone, isn't it? Starbucks to Nike. And
Yeah,
I'm thinking they got too many bloody partners. They're going to have to start jettisoning some partners, and maybe they'll come over to PulseChain.
Well, look, it's easy to have a partner, right? All you got to do is shake someone's hand and say, hey, you want to be partners? And boom, there you go.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't actually have to do anything.
I suppose so, but it must be great. It's great. It's a great bridge, though, isn't it, to all sorts of communities and worlds.
Polygon is just a different layer 1, and then they misbrand it as a layer 2. It's just a layer 1, guys. I don't see why that misbranding. Interestingly enough, it was just the right amount of mainstream buzzword salad to get approval in terms of legitimacy in the eyes of everybody. But again, also it's just a scaling solution for Ethereum, just like PulseChain is going to be as well. So I can't really shit talk Matic for being another scaling solution for Bitcoin. But just
that's a perfect segue.
They chose the partnerships and the wrong branding it as a layer 2. They chose that route because I guess it just fit with what people were ready to accept, but just a layer 1.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. I know people call it a layer 2, don't they? I mean, it's a great segue for a conversation about PulseChain, isn't it, Coffee? Are you still as bullish on PulseChain as ever?
Oh, of course. Come on, man. Everything surrounding PulseChain is it's just FOMO everywhere I look, left and right. People didn't get into the sacrifice because you got to remember it was only 2 weeks long. Very, very few people actually got into the PulseChain sacrifice, and most of them were hexagons that got in early, and they got in at 10x US dollar prices than we were at today. So there's going to be a lot of hex whales that are now PulseChain whales, and we all know most of the whales in hex. Now I say whales as a general term, not technically. They like to hold. So I think there's going to be a lot of initial strong holders of PulseChain. The people that do want to dump early should dump early, but you're not going to have the same scenario as, imagine VCs funded PulseChain, and VCs, I like to call them vulture capitalists, right? They are notorious for just perma dumping because they just want an exit, and they'll perma dump, from 2x to a 10x, and they'll suppress the prices on a lot of these projects. And it's almost, there was so much of that happening in 2021 that, people are finally catching on to the fact that you don't want VCs. You want an actual fanatic community to be the initial seed round, so to speak, of funding of your of PulseChain. And that's exactly what happened. So the weekends are going to shake themselves out right away, which is going to be glorious. They're going to take a 2x or maybe a 3x on their money, and they'll be happy.
Yeah, it's quite a shame, isn't it? And there'll be so much, there'll be more than enough. Yeah, there will be those people. And some people say, oh, well, people have waited so long, they'll just sell straight away. I don't quite follow that logic personally, but there will be some people that have fallen on hard times. But there'll be a buy wall of pressure that will just gobble that up. I think exactly what you just said there. The exceptional thing about Richard Heart projects is there's no venture capitalists. So what does that mean? It means that the big money that missed out on the sacrifices and things, they're going to get in the knowledge that exactly what you just said, that these venture capitalists aren't going to just dump on our heads after the first 50x or something. And yeah, I mean that it's so good, isn't it? And of course, the Ethereum gas fees. I mean, where are these low fees? We're in the depths of a bear market, and I know I onboarded somebody on for a coffee shop just a few days ago, and they had to pay $8 to get $100 worth of HEX.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's the fees alone are enough of a value prop for people to come over to PulseChain. But like you said, let's not forget that HEX could be the only product on PulseChain, and we could just market HEX on PulseChain. Obviously, it won't be. People are building awesome stuff, but not all of it's necessary. I mean, I think the financial primitives are necessary. You need a trading platform, you need lending protocols, you need derivatives protocols, things that make a fully formed financial ecosystem. Maybe some NFT platforms. There's a place for every legitimate DeFi product on PulseChain as well, but you could do without the thousands of scams that are going to come to PulseChain, and believe me, they're going to come. But
yeah,
where was I going with that? We were talking about
it was about PLS and the kind of gains we could expect. And you mentioned the venture capitalists and the fact that the RH projects are devoid of these venture capitalists, which they almost have a fiduciary duty to sell, and so we don't have that with that.
Well, you were talking about the fact that it is a god awful experience. It's almost embarrassing, right? When you try to onboard one of your friends into crypto and you say, "Hey, bud, come on, get your MetaMask account. It's going to be great," and they're like, "Okay, I just want to put in $50 though." And then by the time they're done with their round trip, they paid $1 to Coinbase to get it out of Coinbase. They paid $7 or $8 on Uniswap to do their swap. Then they paid another $3 to the HEX smart contract to stake their HEX to start their stake. So they're left with half of what they had because they just wanted to test it out with a small amount. That's how people get their feet wet. Obviously they put in more money typically afterwards, but they don't want to just go all in with $10,000, which is really what you need to have if you don't want to get chewed up alive by fees on Ethereum, right? Maybe $1,000, right? But if you're starting off with $100, the fees are going to eat a significant percentage of that $100. And so, yes, I know sharding is going to come. Vitalik's going to shard all over us, but that's not going to be happening for another. I mean, Richard Hart said it could take up to 7 years. I mean, we know how slow they were with ETH 2.0. I don't think it's going to take 7 years. I think it might take 2 or 3, maybe 5. But we do need something. PulseChain will buy us time in the meantime. And guess what? Ethereum gets sharding and PulseChain inherits all that too. So it's a win-win. I think we're building the rails for the future of all of crypto. And I think that all these EVM chains, there's also a space for either a layer 0 type of thing or a real, I know Kyle was very interested, Def Kyle, in a real trustless bridge, which technically doesn't exist yet. All these things are going to come together, but right now we're just seeing the kind of the railroad tracks being laid down.
And talking about things coming together, I'd love to talk to you about PLSX, because I often think that the people that didn't get in PLS, a lot of people were late to the party, but they did manage to get into PLSX, or they're now looking at it, they didn't get in PLS or PLSX, and they're thinking, okay, that everyone gets the narrative that everyone wants the layer 1. So there may be an opportunity for people with not too much funds, for instance, to be able to, or even if you've got a lot of funds, to load up on PLSX in the expectation that that's almost going to do well on the back of PLS anyway with the symbiotic relationship. But something's happened. Again, talking about things happening since, I mean, Richard created PLSX, obviously thinking it was going to do very well, but that was before dexes became insanely fashionable, became insanely popular. I think Uniswap has overtaken Coinbase in terms of transactions and the amount of revenue they're making, which is absolutely insanely good news for PLSX. I mean, if we go back a little bit, everyone, we all got terribly excited, and rightly so, when K4K did that fantastic under the bonnet assessment of PLSX, the mechanics of it and the buy and burn function and all that. I got excited, everyone got excited, and rightly so, and we had that sort of fantastic technical perspective. But now, since he did that, the only thing that's changed is that dexes have become insanely more popular. I think Trust Wallet's at an all-time high, Trust Wallet token. So to be launching a dex now is just shooting in a barrel profitability-wise, and it's really incredible to think. So we've got this, on the one hand, investors get PLS, more people sacrifice for PLSX. They had the idea of flipping in the ratio trade period for PLS because that's the only way you can get in on PLS initially in that first period. But now you've got this other issue that dexes have now become this hugely profitable place. They've become like the McLarens. They've become the thing to have, they become. And so you wonder whether or not actually PLSX could immediately outperform PLS. I'll say it out loud. I don't think I've heard anyone say it. I'm not afraid to say it. Could PLSX actually defy everyone and actually do better than PLS in the first few weeks.
It could, and I know a lot of people are super bullish. I know K4K is super bullish on PulseX, and I talk about this all the time. It's one of my disagreements with a lot of people that I think are biased because they just want PulseX to pump because that's the coin they have, or that's the coin they have more of, or that's the coin they understand more. I think we really have to be realistic and say that PulseX, obviously the coin price is a function of the buy and burn, which is a function of the volume done on PulseX, which is basically just another way to say the price of PulseX is going to scale with adoption of PulseX, but it doesn't happen overnight. And so everybody hoping for 100,000x pump overnight, not overnight, but relatively quickly, I think you might be disappointed because I think you're going to have to wait until the volume actually picks up in order for the buy and burn function to really generate any meaningful price performance. Now, that said, of course, there's speculation. People can choose to ape into anything whenever they want to. And people might ape into PulseX once they start using it. But is that going to outpace PulseChain? I think in the early years, I think in year one, just speculating, just a guess, that PulseChain is going to outperform PulseX. And it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong because most people I know are invested in both of these things anyway. So you're arguing which one of your coins is going to pump harder. They're both going to pump. I just think that PulseChain will be the winner personally early on.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I disagree on that because actually most of the price action for crypto initially is speculation, but then you use the speculation word twice. So that you've obviously cognizant of that and you're obviously onto that already. I'm just wondering, okay, I think the PLSX boys get a poor deal because we always talk about PLS, and sometimes in the chat, do consider adding Crypto 7 to your sub list. But in the chat, often I say, oh, you're always talking about PLS, you don't talk about PLSX enough. And I'm just thinking, well, look, Trust Wallet tokens at an all-time bloody high. I mean, imagine that's like saying HEX is at an all-time high and things. It's just, I'm just wondering, are people going to think actually PLSX could be? I mean, it's a big statement to say it could do better than PLS.
Just look at the net gains of layer ones versus layer twos. Like the average from bottom to top in terms of X's of ROI.
Yeah.
On layer ones, the average is in over 1,000. I think I did a video about this way back in the day. The average for layer twos, how high did Pancake Swap, Uniswap pump? It's a bit lower, and that's okay because they're both going to pump. I don't want people to have like false hope just because PulseX is the sacrifice that they got into. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to downplay it at all either, but I think PulseX will do.
No, fantastic. I think that's absolutely right.
But one thing that we also have to realize is value accrues at the endpoints after a long time. Like when the internet was being built, value didn't accrue to Netflix and Amazon until many years later. I think the same thing is going to be with PulseX. I think PulseX will be very, very successful, but will take a couple of more years because the value generation starts off at the dumb pipes. This is a Richard Hart quote, right? The dumb pipes being the infrastructure, being PulseChain. And PulseChain is really the last of the layer ones to launch. And it's what everybody was arguing about in the previous bull market. And we're kind of finding the dust is settling and we're seeing who's still surviving. Obviously, it's not going to be one chain takes them all, but we start to see things like Phantom, Ethereum, Arbitrum, AVAX, and PulseChain. Maybe there's 5 or 6, winners, quote unquote. And then that's when the value can really start to flow into the applications on top of these chains. But I think we're almost in that transition period between value going from layer ones to value flowing into the apps, or the dApps. I don't like the word dApp, but people call them dApps.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. No, I agree with that, Coffee. I'm sure that's right. And it's probably a little bit too bullish to be saying that PLSX could do as well or outperform immediately PLS.
I just don't want people to have false hope, that PulseX is going to do 1,000x right out the gate, and I see a lot of that Moon Boy speak.
At the same time, it probably just what I've just said about the popularity of decentralized exchanges and how Uniswap is now overtaking Coinbase on Ethereum gas fees, in terms of the take and in terms of the fees, not in terms of and so that's phenomenal. I mean, you can imagine how much it costs to run Coinbase with it being labor intensive versus a decentralized
good point that Crypto Capital just made is that PulseX is not a duct tape token. Uniswap is straight up slapped it on, almost zero
Yeah,
utility. Yeah, there's governance, but it's fake governance, right? PulseX is literally a function of the price is a function of the usage. So yeah, if PulseX gets to the success level of Uniswap, it's going to go astronomical to the moon. But Uniswap wasn't built in a day either.
And who gets all the money? We get all the money. The people that buy
Yes.
PulseX on launch, the people that I think that the comments I was making about the recent incredible boom in popularity of decentralized exchanges, which I think is here to stay for a while, isn't it? Particularly with all the Binance FUD, is probably worth reflecting on my comments, just in terms of giving away your PLSX too cheaply on launch in that ratio trading period. If you were thinking, oh, I can get one PLS for 2 of my PLSX. Well, I think I'll have that. Maybe just think twice. Maybe just consider it. But it'll be a fun time, won't it? Can you imagine when we get to the ratio tree? It'll be great. There'll be one guy, some degen, who just goes like hard on a ratio trade.
Yeah.
And I mean, you realize the chances are you'll be on the wrong side of it, but if you get on the right side of a ratio trade,
could be glorious. And look, that's where I think limit orders come into play. Like if you are smart enough to make safe limit orders that are really, really safe, right? Like whatever that means to you, because obviously that's relative. It depends on the coin that you want to get. But you could potentially get some epic deals using the limit order feature. But unfortunately, that means that someone else is going to get a shit deal. And we're going to have some really, really good stories come out of it. Some really fantastic like deals of a lifetime. And then we're also going to have people that lost everything, that got totally annihilated because they didn't know what they were doing. That's why it's so dangerous. And that's why I generally say if you really don't understand what you want and how you're going to do that, like the strategy behind ratios, if you don't understand ratios in general, just probably stay out, because I don't want you to be the one that gives all of your hard-earned money to the other person that's just sitting there with their limit order ready to snatch it up. But it's going to be hilarious. Yeah.
It's going to be hilarious. One of the things I think we do too much, and I'm guilty of this, and of course you and I both sacrificed for PLS and PLSX, is we talk from the shoes of the sacrifices. We sort of from their perspective, but actually there's many more people that just want to buy on launch because they didn't get in on the sacrifice. And I think that that's worth considering in terms of what they'd. Yes, I know where I was going with that. Sorry, it's getting late in the UK. I lost it for a second. So
all good.
The people that didn't, we should all be mindful, everyone. The people that didn't get in on the sacrifice are fudding us a bit now about launch. They want us to launch because they want us to launch now so they can get it cheap. It's a bit like Aptos. I refer to Aptos quite a bit. Fantastic layer one, probably another rival for PulseChain, using the Move coding language, etc., inheriting all the Facebook development investment. So I've been nibbling at that since they launched, because they launched a couple of weeks before FTX disaster at the bottom of the bear market. So they're getting a great price. So anyone that getting into Aptos now is getting a great price. And it's the same thing if Richard was to launch today or tomorrow PulseChain, you'd be getting a great price. So what I'm saying is there's more people that didn't sacrifice than sacrificed. They're on the outside going, oh, look, you see, it's a scam. He hasn't launched. He can't launch, blah, blah. We should launch. The people that sacrificed, if you're clever, you won't want him to launch until May, I think. May is the time when things are really picking up. I said that May is going to be when things really pick up in the market, and that's when you want him to launch. But we should be mindful that there are a load of people that would just love us to launch now so they can get it on the cheap. So that basically all the effort we made of sacrificing and locking our money up, they'll effectively get in at those sorts of prices.
Yeah. I mean, people have to realize too, like people are out there that just straight up lie. They spread FUD because they want to enter a position. And I don't do that. I think it's kind of gross. I think it's slimy, kind of disgusting behavior. But when you're reading people's opinions on Twitter all day long, especially nobody's, with zero clout, zero, they haven't done anything with their lives. They're nobody of notoriety at all. And they start fudding PulseChain, really, really hard. You have to ask yourself, what's their angle, right? Especially if they didn't even get in on the sacrifice phase. Well, it's probably likely that, just like you said, their angle is to shake you out, to destroy your faith in your investment, and to buy your bag at a cheap price because they want to get in. People have even pointed at Eric Wall and said, "Oh, I think he's just fudding because he wants in." I mean, it very well could be true. He could also just be trolling because he genuinely enjoys it. That sick freak. No, just kidding, Eric. But yeah, you got to realize what people's angles are, especially if they haven't even participated in the launch phase or in the sacrifice phase, right?
Yeah, or he's just trying to raise his profile or whatever. As you say, he's got an agenda, hasn't he? You know, and we see that with people.
Yeah,
we see that with
we've
people,
all got an agenda, you know. My agenda is to pump HEX to the moon, PulseChain, PulseX, everything around it. My agenda is around the coins I like, the coins I hold. But luckily for me, we've got a lot of commonalities with you and the rest of the chat here. I think we all have a very similar agenda.
Should we quickly talk about the museum before signing off?
Yeah, sure. That's the topic that I know the least about.
Well,
I heard Richard talk about it in a Twitter Spaces, and it was the most I'd ever heard him talk about it. And I was like, damn, he's really serious about this. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I hear that the reason he's away from home at the moment is he's been working on the museum and things. I think it's going to be hilarious. I think it's going to be just so fun. I think, you know, Richard doesn't take himself too seriously when he dresses and all this stuff. It's for the marketing. Hexo did a great stream on this, and he compared how Dolly Parton used to wear outrageous things and things to get herself promoted, and and she knew what she was doing, and it was I can't remember how he explained it, but it was much better than that, you know. But anyway, he oh yeah, fantastic, yeah.
So take a look at this tweet right here. I mean, call me crazy, but the background, it looks like he might be in some kind of a warehouse,
museum-ish, doesn't it?
Perhaps a
that
museum.
looks like that looks like a converted warehouse that's going to be perfect for a museum, sort of like a tea warehouse or something. Yeah. I think a lot of the clothes are going to go in the museum. I think that it's going to I think this is when outrage marketing is going to maybe start to make a lot of sense. I think that it's going to be so much fun. I think the girls are going to love it. I think the guys generally tend to be the case that more guys are in crypto, so they're going to love it as well. But the girls are going to love the clothes. You can just see it'd be a right good day out wherever you are on that scale. I think people, it's going to be so camp, and I think there's a lot of attraction around that. You can see the talk shows talking about it and everything, like this museum and things. Yeah. I think it is going to be really good, man. I really do.
Yeah, it's going to generate headlines for sure. You know what Richard said in the past, raise $27 million, you get one article, right? And then put on some Gucci pants and you get 100 articles, or buy the world's largest diamond, you get 20 articles written about you. So the world doesn't make sense. The world just they like a show. They like a spectacle. And Richard Hart, I think what he's creating is just that. It's a spectacle. And yeah, it would be great for him to have a place to store all of his crap that he's bought over the years. I would go.
I'd go. You would just say, I would go. I would definitely go to
I'm here live at the Richard Hart Museum. Let's see what this is all about. Look, can you imagine all the content that would generate too? People coming to the museum just to film, and thinking that they're going to even if they wanted to bash it, right? Even if they wanted to go to the Richard Hart Museum to show everybody how stupid it is, they're still going to the museum and they're still filming it. And they're, people just can't help themselves. It's called engagement bait. And I see people falling for it all the time on Twitter. It's some of it is just so low tier.
The TV crews are just going to go there, aren't they? And they're going to get a tour of the Richard Hart Museum, and then that's when it's going to be really funny. They're no longer just pictures in front of sports cars and things. It's going to be like, look at this and look at this and look at all these clothes, and they're going to try them on. It's just going to be hilarious, and I think it's just all going to make sense. Then I'm actually really excited about the museum.
Yeah. Wait, sorry, what?
I'm really excited about the museum.
Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, like I just said, it's engagement bait done right. I think this is 10 times, 100 times better than tweeting, should I launch PulseChain tomorrow? Like for yes, comment for no. That cringe type of Twitter stuff. It only gets you so far, and you're yelling into an echo chamber. This is the type of stuff that breaks you outside of the echo chamber. No matter how silly or stupid you think it is, it's going to turn heads. People who is this rich, eccentric billionaire? Why is he even doing this? Oh, what a narcissist. You could see it. You could see it all right now. People projecting, their insecurities and all this onto just some guy, eccentric billionaire guy, runs out of room to store his Gucci clothes. He's got to buy
it's
a museum.
fantastic. I think it's really fun. It's one of the things I'm going to talk about. I
It's
don't want to go
entertaining.
over all the questions I'm going to ask when I have Richard on the new year, but it's one of the things I'm going to talk to him quite a bit about. I've got some ideas around that, but I just think it's going to be so much fun. I imagine he's going to do a champagne or something, a Richard Hart champagne you can only get if you visit the museum. I mean, wouldn't you drink?
Yeah,
You're
I
on
would do it
tour.
in a
I can see
heartbeat.
your face, man. New Year's Eve,
I'll see you
Richard.
there, brother. I will see you there.
See you there, man.
We should
Absolutely,
have a
man.
group
When
meetup.
when Hex is $5 and PulseChain is God knows what, you know. I mean, when PulseChain's is a cent or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there at the opening launch party for the Richard Hart Museum. Sign me up.
And then it just goes on, doesn't it? Because it's like, oh, look at Coffee having a great time, and he got into, you know. Oh man, I think that's a great place to leave it, isn't it?
That's beautiful, man. Thanks for coming on, Crypto 7. Everybody, go like and subscribe to this man right here. God knows he needs the help. Just kidding.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Appreciate all you guys coming on today. Over 300 of you guys. So glad you're here at the bottom of the bear market. And glad to be on this ride with all you guys. See you later.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, man. Cheers.